In 2008 ging ons financiële systeem keihard onderuit. En ondanks veel geruststellende woorden is er nog niets opgelost. De overheidsmiljarden verdwenen in het zwarte gat van de banken. De rekening wordt doorgeschoven naar de toekomst. Maar hoe ziet die toekomst eruit? Tegenlicht gaat een maand lang de wereld over, op zoek naar de financiële werkelijkheid die ons te wachten staat. In Maleisië, dat de ambitie heeft om het wereldwijde centrum voor Islamitisch Bankieren te worden, is een generatie vrouwelijke bankiers opgestaan die op zoek is naar een nieuw ethisch kader. Deze week in Tegenlicht: bankieren volgens de regels van de sharia. In den beginne werd rente in de meeste religies als zondig beschouwd. Jezus ranselde de woekeraars uit de tempel. En in de Joodse leer was het berekenen van rente aanvankelijk een zonde. Ook de profeet Mohammed verklaarde het vragen van rente haram, verboden. Sinds de 15e eeuw hebben wij het verbod op rente terzijde geschoven. Maar in de islamitische leer bestaat het nog steeds.
My name is Fozia Amanullah. I'm the CEO of Cap Islamic Bank. I started my banking career in 2007 when I joined Cap Islamic Bank. Bank Group is the 7th largest bank in Malaysia. In total, there's about 160 staff, including the 5 full-fledged Islamic branches. By virtue of its name, Cap Islamic Bank, it is a 100% Sharia compliant bank. So all our activities are Sharia compliant. The consumer, the corporate products, as well as the investment products. Our consumer products are like mortgage products. They're all on Islamic Sharia compliant structures, yeah? Car financing, personal financing.
Assalamualaikum, good morning. Al-Fatiha. Wali ummahatina, wali jaddatina, wali ajdadina, wali jami'al muslimina wal muslimat, wal mu'minina wal mu'minat, al-ahya'i minhum wal amwat. Allahumma inna nas'aluka min khairi hadzal amal wa khairi ma fi wa na'udzu bika min syarri hadzal amal wa syarri ma fi innaka ala kulli syai'in qadir. Taqabbalallahu minkum.
I strongly believe that the basic values in any Islamic entity or Islamic environment is to ensure that it's whatever you do or however you act is actually in compliance with Sharia. And integrity is really important, because if you don't adhere or if you don't keep to your basic faith of having integrity, you could easily deviate to a non-halal form. Jenny, can you call Rahimi and his team for a meeting now?
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay.
Mainly, I think what happened in the financial crisis was a lot to do with buying and selling of debt, which is something that's completely not allowed in Islamic finance. A debt is something that you can just package and create, and it's just a notional thing that's there, you know, when it's physically not even there, that you can repackage and start selling it in the market. Whereas for Islamic finance, you just can't do that. It has to be based on an asset. Honestly, I could easily say that I want to do this because it would give me a lot more money, and therefore I would be getting a lot more bonus. But What I'm trying to say is sometimes in Islamic banking, you just can't, no matter how much you want to do it. As long as you keep to the basics of Sharia, you just will not go wrong, and you don't have room to go wrong, you know?
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 17th Annual World Islamic Banking Conference, the world's largest annual gathering of Islamic finance leaders.
17 years ago, the number of attendees at this conference could fill maybe 2 rows. Now, there are more than 1,000 registered attendees from over 50 countries with more than 60 sponsors. That shows the growing importance of Islamic finance. And of course, the theme of this year's conference is building a new growth paradigm.
After the financial crisis that we have seen in 2008, the global cry for change has been on the ethics of banking and not necessarily on the mathematics of banking. Consumers around the world, investors around the world have lost fortunes. It took them decades to accumulate the fortunes, and those fortunes were wiped out. Not because they gave the money to banks that were not smart. In fact, they gave the money to banks that were extremely smart. So it was not intelligence that made them lose the money. It was the ethics that were basically diluted in the heydays before 2008.
I started out in conventional banking for about 13 years. I was doing investment banking, everything from debt capital markets, equity capital markets, origination, everything, derivatives, everything non-Sharia compliant. By 2004, I saw that the rise of Islamic finance and the potential and the prospects. So I thought that this would be a good thing to venture into. For me personally, it was also a bit of a spiritual journey at that point in time. Well, you know, all of us as we grow older, everybody, some of us, look for something else, I guess. And we came out of a crisis ourselves in Asia. And I did look at how Islamic finance is propagating equity in financing. And I thought this is something beyond just what I would like to do in my investment banking days. So that was really how I pursued it. And by venturing into Islamic finance, I got to learn about the religion a little bit more, and sources that I'd never otherwise would have gone into. And I think for me, it strengthens my faith even more. And I feel very strongly, especially after the Western financial crisis, which really hinges on everything that Sharia banking prohibits. You know, gambling is not allowed, speculation is not allowed. And if you look at the whole entire fall due to the subprime crisis, mortgage crisis, that would never have happened in the Islamic finance space, because we cannot trade and buy things that you don't have or you don't understand.
Assalamu alaikum, bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. What we've seen coming out from the global crisis was a couple of stuff that investors are looking for. One is liquidity, and second, transparency and governance. These were the two things that caused the Western financial crisis, which evolved into a global economic crisis. We clearly have seen the failure of the SEC in the United States on certain funds that were handled by former NASDAQ chairman, Bernie Madoff. And these are the things that I feel in the next stage, or when we talk about new growth paradigm, is using regulated platforms for product offering.
Well, the thing is, the world just had far too much liquidity at one point in time. it was chasing, even my clients then were chasing for investments and asking for returns that was not sustainable. It wasn't easy for us to give those kind of returns to our clients.
They were asking too much.
There was more money chasing real things to invest in, and they were still asking for very high returns. And as competition tightened within the financial world, everybody tried to come up with something clever and better, and that's why you have all these representation of double-digit returns, which eventually was not sustainable and not real. I mean, just look at Bernie Madoff, you know, nobody asked him how he was giving 20-30% return on the back of economy of a GDP of 2 to 3%. I mean, how could that be possible? But nobody asked, you know. And again, in subprime mortgage papers, some were so complex that the buyers didn't understand. And investors figured that because it's so complex, and my investment banker is this clever little guy in his pinstripe suit, this must be a really brilliant product. It's so sophisticated that I don't understand it. And so people got sucked in. The idea of Sharia banking is you take the Sharia laws as your guide to develop a new alternative financing product called, say, participation banking. New value system. I think the West has something to learn from the recent crisis on the values with regards to Islamic. It is not possible to preach conscience. It's not. You know, because when you put a pile of money in front of people, they forget about being conscionable. For us in Islamic banking, it's not about preaching. It is law of the highest doctrine, higher beyond the regulators of central banks. To us is the divine. So, but for the non-faith-driven financial markets, I'd like for them to consider just adopting the values and the wisdom and regulating them. Just regulate them, because Islamic banks did not invest in all these things. We could not. Our Sharia scholars were not allowed.
One of the biggest misconceptions is that Islamic finance is for Muslim only. My clients are institutions that are based globally, and my focus currently is in Asia, which include beyond Malaysia, the like of Singapore, Brunei, Thailand, Hong Kong, and China, and the Middle East, which is also the low-hanging fruit. My shareholders is 50% principal global investors of United States with asset under management of $212 billion US, and the balance 50% of my shareholder is CIMB Group, which is the Southeast Asian Universal Bank. So it is actually the marriage of two strong brands, global asset management and Islamic pro-business.
How are you?
Hey, hi Norman.
So pleased to see you again.
Good to meet you again.
It's been a few months.
Has been longer.
You look well.
Oh, shorter. We met in the morning.
You look well.
Thank you.
Rex, of course.
Hi, Rex.
Nice to see you. Nice to see
Good
you
to
again.
meet you again.
Nice to see you again.
Good, good. Come.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You've been all over the world, Dory, planning business development. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yes, so my latest visit was actually Germany and Geneva. And there was a very interested investor in Munich, Germany.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I'm based in Des Moines, Iowa, which is basically the headquarters of Principal Financial Group. It's a Fortune 250 company, an American company like Principal Financial Group, which brings all the DNA. We are the intel inside in the products, basically, product, strategy, pricing, technology. And of course, CIMB has the knowledge of the Islamic market and the distribution power through many branches.
We are looking into launching it at 3 Dublin funds this year.
Excellent.
And we need the whole sales support.
Sure.
To be engaging the client, to be there every 2 weeks at the point of sales in the whole GCC, because without such engagement and entertainment, you wouldn't be able to close the deal.
I think the CIMB principal joint venture in Islamic finance and Islamic asset management is very promising. I have nothing but good things to say about that. And of course, the future is so much brighter, you know. That market, that Islamic finance and Islamic asset management market in the middle and upper middle class in all of these states is growing like topsy. And so we are very happy about that. In Asia, Middle East, the middle classes, they were borrowing money, they were depositing money in banks, and they're very comfortable with that kind of banking relationship. As interest rates all over the world began to drop, for example, an Islamic household that is an average household in the middle class, which has been growing very quickly, of course. The middle class is growing in Asia enormously. Needs a little bit more yield. They're looking for more return on their investments. And so a bank deposit is no longer sufficient. So the next thing is, well, what other things can we do? We have this disposable income. We have to worry about retirement. We have to worry about the education of our children. We have to worry about accumulating enough down payment for the mortgage for the house. Where do we put our money? Mutual funds. But they're very religious, and they say, well, I can't invest in a mutual fund, for example, that has a company that markets alcohol in it or tobacco. And therefore, can you give me a product that is Sharia compliant, that invests, of course, and gives me higher return than my bank, okay? Don't want to invest at 2% per annum taxable. I want to invest at 12% per annum non-taxed. And so we provide these products for the growing middle classes. That's basically what we do. No Muslim is allowed to invest in a company that markets alcohol or tobacco or some forms of entertainment. Some companies that invest in areas that are not permissible to Islam.
We are organizing a product launch at the branch today. The product is an Islamic savings account specially designed for women, and it's called An-Nisa. An-Nisa in Arabic means women. We've got, Ion Islamic Bank have got one of its 5 full-fledged Islamic branches are located in Kuala Terengganu. This is a very important location for us, and the branch is also a success for Ion Islamic because it's located in a right spot where we have got customers who like Islamic banking products. Specifically, we are targeting business women. In Malaysia, you see a lot of women in the business sectors. Either they're working in companies or corporates or even setting up their own businesses, whether it's a food stall or in the market. There are a lot of women in Malaysia who are working mothers, working women. And because, rather than putting their savings in a general account, I think putting it in this An-Nisa account would give them additional benefit. Tuan-tuan dan puan-puan, tahap pencapaian kecemerlangan kaum wanita di Malaysia tidak dapat dinafikan, di mana begitu ramai kaum wanita yang telah membuktikan kejayaan dan penglibatan dalam pelbagai industri di Malaysia. Kami di Ion Cap Islamic Bank amat berbangga dengan peranan kami dalam membantu dan menggalakkan kaum wanita untuk terus maju dan memperkukuhkan keperluan kewangan di bidang yang mereka ceburi. Our deposit customers comprise of both the Muslims and non-Muslims. In fact, our analysis as at to date, the majority are non-Muslims. Yes. So our financing outreach to consumer market are both
Fauzia, CEO dan juga Executive Director Yoncap Islamic Bank.
Okey, terima kasih Kelly. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera kepada semua. Pertama sekali, marilah kita mengucapkan syukur kepada Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala kerana dengan rahmat-Nya dapat kita semua berkumpul serta dengan kesihatan yang dikurniakan kepada kita pada hari ini, dapatlah kita membuktikan kebolehan kita bermain bowling. Guys, don't let me down.
Ni penting ni.
Tak payahlah, please. Making money is definitely there. The competitiveness is throughout. It's in the financial industry. Where do you think your strength lies? Where do you think you've got a niche market? The performance, you are expected to go up every year, and your key performance indicators are addressed quite clearly. At the end of the day, your results determine where you stand.
I firmly believe that the center of economic gravity has now moved to emerging markets. It's moved to Asia. It's moved to BRIC countries. These markets will see vast boom economic growth in the next 5 to 10 years. At the peak of the crisis, the growth of Islamic finance deposits was at 9.8%.
This is booming.
That's right. And this is when you had consumers withdrawing deposits from, large, big banks that have been around for hundreds of years. Whereas the growth of deposits in the Islamic finance industry grew by 9.8%. So I would urge, your viewers to look at the fundamental principles of Islamic finance and move beyond the realms of faith financing and look at the tangible advantages provided by Islamic finance, and you will see that it is a more fair system. I mean, I came from the conventional industry. I was with a lot of European foreign banks before working with an Islamic institution. But at the end of the day, like I said, it's the challenges, it's the opportunities, it's the ability to make a change that drives me professionally. I'm sure it drives other women as well.
Whatever product that comes out of an Islamic bank, it has to be endorsed by the Sharia advisors. So every Islamic bank has got a team of Sharia advisors within the bank who endorses the products, the operations, the systems, and the running of the Islamic bank to ensure that it's in compliance with the Sharia. Amra, what's your status on compliance?
Compliance
review.
Compliance review. Alhamdulillah, on 31st of October, we managed to have 25 out of 50. So I think our Sharia advisory also has highlighted this to business banking. And the other issue is some of the product we cannot manage to find what is the date of approval for every product.
We employ 5 individuals or various different organizations, but who are qualified, Sharia qualified, to sit in our organization and have regular monthly meetings to discuss the entirety of Ion Bank Islamic Bank, not just the products, but we also discuss processes. And sometimes even when we do advertisements on our launches of product, they have to endorse on the brochure as well to ensure that it is Sharia compliant, because you don't want to see pictures in the brochures of, say, for instance, right, women in bikini, or that would not be Sharia compliant. That would not be in line with it.
Nasihat Syariah Budaya Negara Malaysia, ulama-ulama al-kiram, asatizah al-fadil, ayuhal ahibbah. Pertamanya adalah mengucapkan kesyukuran kepada Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala kerana dapat kita adakan majlis kita pada pagi ini di hari-hari awal di dalam bulan Zulhijjah yang penuh dengan keberkatan dan penuh dengan.
My name is Engku Rabi'ah Adawiyah. I'm teaching law. I also do supervision and teach Islamic banking and finance as well as Islamic securities and capital market. At the same time, I also do some advising banks as well as other institutions about Islamic banking and financial transactions.
Hiyal dari segi istilahnya, kalau dilihat dalam paper kami memang panjang perbincangannya dan kami cuba melihat takrifan sama ada secara langsung atau tidak langsung di dalam semua mazhab fiqh, Hanafi, Maliki, Syafi'i dan juga Hanbali.
I think the Western banking system is more about perhaps profit optimization or profit maximization, and that's actually the main thing that they look at. Okay, basically we have capital, we're going to optimize the use of this capital. That is the main thing that they look at. From Islamic principles, they look at we also look at profit maximization, optimization, but with a touch of social and ethical responsibilities. Because you can make money, but you cannot make money in a way which is unfair or oppressive to another person.
Conventional banking has always had interest, or in Arabic it's called riba, or interest-based element, and that's prohibited in Muslim religion. You're not supposed to make interest out of lending money someone, as in you're not supposed to benefit out of helping someone who needs money.
There are three main things in Islamic banking: no interest, no gambling, no speculation. Interest is taken away because it's been replaced by profit sharing. Gambling is not allowed because if you look at the subprime mortgage, it's a gamble, or derivatives, naked trading of derivatives is a gamble, and it's speculation. It doesn't promote any real economic activity. The activities of naked trading of derivatives and all the subprime mortgages, has it brought greater enhancement to real economy? The answer is no. So Islamic finance promotes that all financial transaction has got to be linked to real economic activity. That's why we say there has to be real assets underlying it.
The philosophy behind it is you do or make profit in the transaction in a responsible and ethical manner, rather than just do in a manner which is up to your own judgment. Yeah.
Kedua-dua bentuk hiyal, iaitu hiyal yang dibenarkan, hiyal masyru'ah, dan juga hiyal yang dilarang, hiyal muharramah. Manakala ta'rif khusus lebih menjurus penggunaannya kepada hilah yang dibenarkan sahaja atau kepada hilah yang dilarang.
We actually view money and wealth in general as a trust which God has given human being for them to use, and they have to use it in an accountable manner, in the sense that you can use it for your personal use, but you also have some social responsibility to other fellow human being.
Who is she?
She's Aisha. She's 11 months old now.
She's your daughter?
Yes, my daughter. My 7th child.
And you just bring her?
Because she doesn't want to take other than mom's milk, so I have to bring her around when it's her feeding time.
I've always been born a Muslim, and my family has always emphasized the importance of the religion. So I think the basic of the religion has always been with me. It's always been inbuilt. Wearing a veil or a tudung is not as common as perhaps even now, you know. Those days it just wasn't as common. I really felt that me deciding to wear it is very much my own decision. I just woke up in the morning and I took the veil and I started wearing it. I looked at it in the mirror and thought, that's not very nice. So I tried it on again, and you know, all the different styles, and I thought, okay, this looks kind of okay. So I thought I'll just walk into office like this. Well, even my husband was wondering, you know, is this for a short while? Is this a trial error thing, or are you going to permanently wear? I didn't know. I couldn't even answer him. I just didn't know. But I felt comfortable day after day, and I thought, okay, that's it. And it's only about 6 months or so after that I got the offer to join Yon Islamic.
So that's kind of, it all came together at the same time?
I guess so. It wasn't anything that was planned. I didn't really apply for the job, or, you know, it just happened. It just happened through a friend who said, you know, I think you should, they're looking for a deputy CEO position in Yon Islamic, and I think you are most fitted to join them. My husband gave me a lot of encouragement. He said, yeah, I think you should, you know, just go and try, and I did.
Okay, on personal financing, we saw a growth last month of about 12 million. I think that has been the lowest growth this year. Primarily because October was a month where Model 2 came, we had to replace Model 3 with Model 2, and because of that we had minimal growth for cooperative lending last month, and we landed with only a growth of about 12.8 million last month. Although our total performance for this year, the growth, average growth stands at about 50% as of October.
Okay, Risham, I think actually there are serious concerns on personal financing which we have to address. Firstly, your drawdowns are not as projected. Of course, it's nowhere near the targets, but even on a monthly basis, we are very concerned. Secondly, the NPF seem to be on a rising trend. I also saw the email from Recovery recently on the
MID1.
On the MIDs and even your NPFs. Thirdly, your restructuring is not as expected. It's still going slower than expected.
Right.
Yeah. And finally, our fixed rate concern on personal financing. We need to be sure when is that going to be addressed, when is the floating rate coming in. Being a woman leader, even within the bank itself, it wasn't very easy because a lot of the heads of departments were men. And for them to look at you, and I mean, their question would be like, I wonder how long she's going to be here. She's probably just going to stay about 6 months and then she's going to go off, you know. But I stayed on. There were lots of challenges and I did stay on. It wasn't easy to get people together, to get people to understand the vision and to grow as one team. That was perhaps the most challenging part.
You really, I guess you have good women in Malaysia. But, you know, it's, if you're talking about Islamic finance specifically, yes. I mean, the central bank governor is a lady, and she's extremely, you know, she's extremely prolific. She's, you know, one of the stalwarts of Islamic finance. The chairman of the Securities Commission is a lady as well, and she's another very proud example of women in Malaysia. You know, I think it's, I don't think it's specific to Islamic finance. I think it's just because, you know, it's an industry that's growing, and you have very accomplished women in banking in Malaysia. Not only in Islamic finance, I'm sure in the conventional space as well. And you would find that throughout Asia. It's a growing market, and I think, you know, I think you're limited only by your appetite for risk and a good challenge.
Yes.
So, but you have my card, you know.
We'll chat later, or I'll give you a shout. You should be knowing.
Oh yes! Oh my God, Omar! How are you?
Yes. How you doing?
Okay, you.
Yes.
Yeah, haven't given you my new card.
Yeah, you moved, right? Bursa now, right?
Yeah, national service.
But did you stay to halal or did you...
Of course I did.
Yeah, because Majid was giving you a hard time, right?
I have stayed halal since Majid.
Yeah.
You know, I did unicorn.
The offer, right? And then he said, why you want to go there?
In Malaysia, it has been very easy and there's no glass ceiling. At least I personally do not feel it at all. It's a bit more challenging here in the GCC. It is, a male-dominated society, and the industry is very male-dominated as well. And I don't see anybody. I can't recall. I don't think there's a single woman sitting at any top positions in any Islamic bank here. Bahrain is great. It's an open place, that's where people converge. But some other countries a bit more challenging, like Saudi, for instance. It's very difficult to do business for a woman. It's difficult even to get into Saudi. And once you get into Saudi, it's not easy to get around. You can put 100 of my stuff on your Bait al-Bursa, yeah? Well, I can share you the time that I got turned away trying to enter Saudi despite having a visa, because they wanted my husband to be there.
And you were there by yourself?
Yes, I was there, but I had a business visa, but they turned me away. Or the times that I would be speaking to a potential client and he would ignore me, but he would rather speak to my staff, who's male. So I'd speak to him and he would speak to the guy. Okay. And I think that's going to be the biggest problem, is trying to connect the two. I would say the two different culture.
What's that? Crocodile. Who is that, sayang? Huh? Come, give Mama a hug. Come. Give Mama a hug. Give Mommy a hug. Give Mommy a hug. Come on. Let's go. Let's sit in the car. Okay? Come. Abdullah, go in. Clever boy. Okay, move, sayang. Move a bit. Come on, go in. Thank you. What did you do today, sayang? Did you finish your lunch? Did you? Finish your rice?
Yeah. Mosquito bite Abdullah's leg.
Mosquito bite Abdullah's leg. Let me see. Where? Let me see. Oh, poor boy, yeah, you're right. We go back home and put some medicine, okay? Okay? Beat the mosquito, beat the mosquito. Let me see. Poor boy, sayang. Mosquito bite Mama's nose also here. So pain here, there. Can you see? Is it red color? Okay, say bye-bye, Uncle Zarif. Say bye-bye, Uncle Zarif. Say bye-bye, Uncle Zarif. Say. Okay. In the mornings, right, I wake up really early, just before 6, say my prayers, morning prayers, and then I quickly shower and get out of the room before he wakes up, because when Abdullah wakes up, right, and he sees that I'm not around, he'll start crying and asking for me. And when I come back in the evening, I'll try to come back as early as I can, but normally it's about 6, 7 o'clock. Sometimes 8, 9 o'clock, unless I've got dinner plans. What is Pororo doing? What is Pororo doing? At this level of seniority in the bank, right, it's a lot of meetings during the working hours. So I don't really get to do my actual work during working hours. So I'll be out for meetings, I'll be seeing clients, you know. So I only get to do my work in the mornings, or if I take it back home at night. And you know, now with your emails accessible easily anytime, it's quite easy for me to respond on my handphone as well. So sometimes when he goes to sleep and I've got something really urgent to do, then I'll do it at night. And it's actually quite easy because I get access to it immediately. Yes. And I get it done. And that's it. I think the texting part is actually more of the thinking and the pressure of meeting targets, of, you know, meeting the board directors and the board meetings. Now that's very taxing, but I mean, it's something that I am prepared for, and I've been doing it for 3 years already now.
Yes.
Yes, darling. Ambulance. Ambulance. Did you see the ambulance? Wow.
Islamic finance market is probably worth about $500 billion US in this Southeast Asian area. If you count the Middle East, that's another $1 trillion. So it's about $1.5 trillion US in Islamic finance. The asset management market is much smaller because it's newer. People did not invest in mutual funds, and they didn't invest in asset management products and all these long-term investment products until probably about 15 years ago. It's a very new market. That market in Southeast Asia only is probably worth about $80 billion. But if you take the world as a total, including London and very large financial markets, it's probably about $250, $300 billion in assets under management. But that market is growing at about 30% per annum.
So that's enormous.
Very, very large market and very fast growing, which is really the opportunity.
I think that Islamic finance represents a new wave for Europe to embark on, to tap new investors. You know, if you look at where global liquidity is centered at the moment, it's in the Middle East and it's in Asia. Excess liquidity in Asia as at October of this year was at $4 trillion. In the Middle East, it's at $2 trillion. So it's economics at the end of the day. And if you want to lure these investors to your markets, then I think it would involve a lot of education, a lot of awareness on what global markets are doing.
33% of the world's privately owned wealth is managed in Switzerland. And of that, about $200 billion of assets under management within the Swiss private banking system is owned by Muslims. And essentially zero of that today is managed according to Sharia. I was a private banker in Geneva for 17 years, covering mostly just Arabia. And through 17 years of taking private client wealth from Arabia and managing it in Switzerland, which is Swiss private banking, there was one constant theme that recurred again and again and again. My clients are Muslims. They're modern contemporary people in all ways, but they're Muslim. And in the back of their minds is, if I have wealth and I'm going to put my wealth with somebody to manage my wealth, I want that manager to be sensitive to my values on Islam. And so our job as bankers is to give a product that is both Sharia compliant and equal in all respects to conventional investing. So Islamic asset management, Islamic wealth management has to be equal in all respects to conventional wealth and asset management. If it's not, then we didn't do our job. In fact, Islamic wealth management and Islamic asset management should be able to be sold to anybody. Hindus and Christians and Jews should be able to buy this without any hesitation because it's equal in all respects, except for one thing. It's ethical.
about things in Malaysia?
Alhamdulillah, because Asia is coming up. Do you know that I've had in this last 2 days I've been here, people have been asking me for jobs. It is a challenge because Islamic finance is seen by many people as faith-based. It is how you want to pitch it to your people. If you pitch Islamic finance in a European market to say, I want to offer Islamic products to my Muslim population, then of course it becomes faith-driven. But by doing that, you might be isolating, or certainly isolating non-Muslims, the non-Muslims, and not actually being able to offer a good product to others.
Can you see a role for Islamic finance also in Europe in the future?
Definitely. I think in London, in UK, they've already done Islamic banking there. Is most definitely, and I'm sure the demand would be there. There are a lot of, for a start, perhaps the Muslims would go for Islamic banking. But eventually, when the consumer market at large understands the concept of Islamic banking, understands the benefit, the privilege, I think it would be like Malaysia, it would be an open market.
It's amazing that in Holland they're not doing something like this. All they need to do is roll out retail Islamic finance and then just wait and see how the market grows. You have a vast Muslim population in Holland. You have a lot of people who are interested in Islamic finance but have no access to it.
In Europe, I would imagine somewhere between 5 and 8% of all European workers are Muslim, whether we're talking about Germany or France or Netherlands. And a Muslim who's really thoughtful about his savings and about his retirement, without any doubt, would like to see his retirement savings placed into Sharia-compliant investments. And so over time, I would like to see the European pension fund system give Muslim employees, Muslim Europeans, the option to have their long-term savings put into Sharia-compliant assets.
But as soon as they hear the word Sharia...
Yes, they run away from it. That's it. It's a preconceived idea. They're linking it to other things which are really it's really not comparable at all. We're actually talking about a banking product.
You know, the United States is going to be a multicultural population very, very soon. The white Caucasian population in the United States by the year 2025, which is just around the corner, is going to be less than 50%.
And the same counts for Europe.
Absolutely. So we're all multicultural, we're all part of the same globe, as a result of which you have to cater to the needs of the customer. In the same way that you deal with the needs of some very conservative customers, want to invest in fixed income. Some conservative customers put their money under the mattress. Some conservative customers put their money in bonds. Some aggressive customers put their money in equities. Well, Islamic customers want a product that adapts to their needs. Very simple.
做到中国第一就是全球第一。
Economisch gezien groeit China in hoog tempo door.
跟父母的情况来对比来讲的话，我觉得应该现在我们这一代非常幸福的。
我们曾经有一句话嘛，让一部分人先富起来，再带动另外一部分人。
We still have a long way to go. So how could you say we should slow down?
Gaat de Chinese zeepbel knappen of niet? Volgende keer in Tegenlicht, Chinezen over hun eigen ontwikkeling.